and blessed unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity.
Good morning, self-lovers. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. Here we are. I'm Dawn Light, and your co-host, and also my beautiful sister here, Trish Wright. If you're new to the Self-Love Show, welcome. We are so grateful to do this every week for you. And if you don't know, we also have YouTube and a beautiful podcast platform. So go check us out there, Apple, Spotify, all the platforms. There's so many nuggets of goodness and wisdom over the last 2.5 years. And today we have a great topic. I just want to introduce it. Trish is going to teach on it today. And it really has to do with, when it comes to addressing bad behavior from a partner, compassion should be at the core of any response. Your goal when looking at their behavior is to understand why they are behaving this way and not just get angry and resentful. GAHHH! Why are they so annoying? Let's start by asking, what is the intention behind their behavior and how have I contributed to the current situation? What are my needs in this situation? Is nonviolent communication possible here? And most importantly, how can I respond with compassion and clarity? When compassion and understanding come first, the result will always be healthier than getting stuck in anger and frustration. Although those are great questions, Trish will take us through 5 easy questions to ask yourself before connecting with your partner. And you can always ask yourself this too as a solo process. So, yay!
Yay. Thank you for that. You know what I'm often struck by, like we've done a lot of these these conflict resolution ones. And the thing that I want to say is that I'm going to give you like 5 easy questions. And it's like, yeah, they're easy if you can remember them in the moment. And these things are so important to remember, to be compassionate with yourself when you mess it up, because these are practices, right? It's not something that we just like, okay, I got now 5 easy questions and I'm going to ask them when my partner does that annoying thing, or when they provoke me, or, like, I want to like precursor the whole show with that. Because it's like, how often do we feel upset and fiery, and even like uncontrollable in that space because you feel slighted, or your brain made up a story that this is something that is happening, or do you feel hurt or neglected, or something that maybe you felt before, like maybe in childhood,
or judged, or a need not being met.
Exactly.
There's so much going on.
There is so much going on. I've been posting a little bit about jealousy because I have that thing coming up in January. And there's been a couple of kind of pokes at like, well, jealousy is envy. And I was like, I don't actually, like, it doesn't matter the word that it is, like the distinction. I'm more interested, and when I take my clients through, I'm more interested in what's under the disrupt, what's under the spicy feelings. Now, don't get me wrong, I am all for defining, creating language around the feeling, like to be able to communicate all of the things, all of that. And what I'm finding that and noticing that's incredibly helpful is getting under the, whatever you want to call it, the jealousy, the anger, the frustration, the annoyance, the hurt, and getting, what is it that I want and need? What is the value that's being like poked at? Where is the disconnect that like I've made up that you don't feel the same way, so now we can't be connected in some ways? Like there's those types of pieces where there's like, what is underneath that? What's under the envy? What's under the jealousy? What's under the disconnection?
The feeling of defeat, or the pull away, the sadness that comes when one person pulls deeply away out of fear.
Well, and just as I think that this piece right here, the pull away, has a nervous system disruption, because a lot of us, without getting into attachment theory too much, it's like a lot of us, like, we didn't have secure attached parents who were fully resourced, or at least like 80% resourced, to have conversations with us about what's going on in their worlds, and that, like, how to really manage the world as children. So a lot of us, like, when there is a pull away, we're energetic beings. So a lot of us are like, wait, what was that? That the pull away can feel really scary, or nervous system dysregulating, or it could feel like threat, because that's something that we experience as children. There's lots of different, like, combinations of this particular thing, and how children have moved in attachment theory, or in like anxiousness or avoidance or disorganized. Like, well, without going into any more depth of that, if you are interested in attachment theory, go back and listen to Shayna or Mike Thomas or Felipe, who are much more educated in that realm. But going back to this piece around 5 questions to ask yourself before getting into conflict. Now, in the ideal world, if we had, good morning. Hi, Scott.
Morning.
Hi, Robin. Oh, our friends are here. If we could slow down enough to ask a couple questions, and we've already touched a little bit on childhood attachment or childhood feelings, and this is where I'd love to go a little bit, unless you have something to say.
No, I love this. I love this conversation, because it's really, like, I think all disconnect or all issues in relationships really are rooted in some place in our childhood, a place we didn't have our needs met, or a place that a deep misunderstanding or misidentification around whatever unfolded at that time period in your life. It's rooted there.
Yes. Okay, so you're right at the brink of getting in an argument with your partner about the stove catching on fire on Christmas. I just heard this story yesterday, which was really cute. And and you're seeing your partner. This means a lot to you. This is like a very expensive household item. Maybe you don't have the money to do that. Your thing caught on fire. You have flaming hot, glowing red sugar cookies that you can't even touch because they're freaking like flaming.
Yikes.
Literally. Now you've got some choices here. You're probably feeling, I'm speaking as you, as in like the theory of how I'm hearing this story.
Yes.
Like, you got a couple of choices. You're watching this whole thing. It's going to cost a boatload of money. It's scary. You're like the things like beep, beep, beep. And your partner's like, oh my God, freaking out, call the fire department. You're like, all right, trying to get rational. There's so much going on. Now you got a couple choices. You can be like, or, and if for anybody who was listening to that on the radio, I was, freaking out. I was having a tantrum, if you can imagine. And, or if you can slow down enough, and this is the tricky part, right? This is within lots of practice. You'll mess it up a zillion, probably like 565,000 times. It's okay. Be gentle with yourself here. But that one time after the 565,000, that one time you're going to be like, oh my God, I can slow down right now. You can slow down and be like, okay, how can I make this better? I can create a solution in the moment. If it's necessary, like, please don't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Ask them first.
Grab the fire extinguisher from under the sink.
Exactly.
That's where mine is.
Yeah. So you can do that. You can okay, put out the immediate fire.
Yes.
And then come to the situation with compassion and kindness. And what I thought, okay, so what actually happened in the story is that she wanted to make sugar cookies because his sister makes these amazing sugar cookies that are delicious and super organic and super no sugar. and she wanted to like be invited to participate in making the cookies.
Hmm. So
And
yeah, her thing was about communication and connection.
yeah, and she also but the stove didn't do the right thing. Like something shorted out, and they couldn't shut the stove off. So
Right.
it lit on fire. It lit the cookies on fire, and the unit was burning. So he turned the electricity to the entire house off, and then was like, "Oh, love, it's okay." She goes, "I'm not a baker." He goes, "Oh, love, it's okay." It's we
That's
needed
so
a new stove anyway.
Oh, that's really sweet.
I know, and I was like, "Wow, there's so many ways that this conversation, like," and then I could see her kind of like feeling like really, she felt really held in that moment by her partner. I was like, "Oh, thank you," instead of being like,
More dysregulated by someone's
because she already felt bad.
Yeah.
She already like all this dream of being like connected to the sister, like that already crumbled. So there's like doubles here. She probably felt really small, like, oh no, I made a mistake and I'm bad and wrong, and like,
So
yeah. So again, like there's ways that we can choose to be compassionate, and also just flip it just a little bit, right? Did she feel small? Yes. Did he feel small? Probably yes, because this is how when our triggers get triggered, we get like, oh. So questions to ask yourself before getting into conflict. This is not the 5 questions, but one of them is like, how can I make the situation better? I know, I don't know if you know, but I have a PhD in how to make it worse than anybody else. I mean, I'm really skilled at making it worse. This is why I became a relationship coach, is because I've spent my whole life like working on ways to make it better.
Good for you.
Yeah. Building skills to make it better.
I just want to say, honestly, we're human and we're doing the human thing together. And honestly, it's our nature, it's our spiritual curriculum to trigger each other innocently. Innocently. It's not that you're walking into the room like, I'm going to go trigger that person. They have no intention, but you're guided sometimes to say this specific thing in a specific way that's going to trigger the F out of somebody, and you're not intending to do that. It's from a genuine and innocent place sometimes that you're just asking a question and you had no idea that there was this raw, intense material just waiting to be, but it's in their energy field because it's unresolved, and they have an attractor field in a way energetically that's drawing in the people that are going to ask that question, because that's how God works through us, is really seeking that hot spot, that button to be like, oh, it's right there. And so I just wanted to preface that, that it's important to remember your people love you even if they trigger you sometimes. And even if you trigger the others by accident, you have to remember not to take it on when they're triggered. This is their curriculum.
But that's the thing. It's kind of set up to trigger your stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why, one of the reasons, like, never, if I'm speaking in absolutes, it's just how I feel. You can take it on as my opinion. I'm not going to say that anything that I ever say is the truth. That's really up to you. One of the things that I think is the reason why we get so triggered is that we take off our, like, the walls of protection to be with our people. Like, I'm taking layers of protections subconsciously off to be close. And when I mean intimate, like emotionally and mentally intimate with you, to be my friend, because I want that. And so I keep delayering some of these protections where I don't have to hide the most intimate, insecure places of myself. I don't have to hide those things from, well, I think that I don't have to hide those things from you. And it is likely that in your humanness, you will step on one of my sensitivities without even knowing. And I will do the same. I will step on one of your insecurities without even knowing. Because you've let me in. And I'm also just like a big glumping human, like, hey, I love you. You know, I'm going to just step into that one, you know?
How many people have experienced this? Like, if you're listening out there, raise your hand. How many people have experienced this?
And again, it's because I've let you close enough to me to touch that one. Mm-hmm. What is the saying?
And this is how we heal together.
Yeah.
It builds honesty. It builds honesty and integrity with one another, and an available opportunity to go deeper with our vulnerability and intimacy together. If you take the opportunity.
Yes.
And see it as an opportunity.
Well, conflict is an opportunity for intimacy. Mm-hmm. It's about how one resolves, or how one comes back into, or how one takes accountability. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I mess up all the time, like all the time. If I wish that I could do it perfectly, and I know that I can't. So I'm A, really compassionate with myself. B, really, I take ownership of my impact fairly quickly. If I don't understand how the person feels, I ask, like, hey, how did that land for you? Oh, I see that it landed that way. And I can acknowledge that that's what it caused. The things that I can do better are this. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to be like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, and like deflect, because that's going to make it worse.
Mm-hmm. That does make it worse.
Deflect. It makes it worse every time. I mean, how often does it work? Anybody got any statistics on that? And I mean, really, like, people want to be seen. People want to be heard. People want to know that you are conscious enough of that person, that other person that you're with. They want to know that they mean something to you, and that you're thinking about them, and that it's not necessarily to validate their feelings, but it's also to like work really reality together. Like, oh, this is what you did, and this is how it made me feel. Oh my God, I didn't realize that my being myself would impact you like that. Mm-hmm. And then it's on the person who did the thing to decide what to do in some ways. Like, I can hear the other person and what they need from me, and that might not be in my even capabilities, let alone willingness to be able to make maybe that change. That could be an incredible stretch for me, or it could be like, oh, that's easy. I can do that. I can call you and reassure you, or I can do these things, but I can't chop off my foot and hobble for you. Like, I can't do that. So that's where conflict you get to negotiate reality and create new ways of relating.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Okay, where are we at? I know I'm dragging these 5 questions out for fun, y'all, for fun. So, because this is such a high point of conflict, and everyone's tired, the time between Thanksgiving and New Year's, I'm not sure what kind of time warp that is. It is something else, and it is often because like the weather has shifted, the time has shifted. It's a weird, introspective, triggery
portal
of yum, and could be ugh. And so sometimes people can get really sad or upset or frustrated, or who knows what, happy, delighted, ecstatic around these times. And it can be very clashing. Like, lots of conflict can come up. Your how resourced you are can be very limited in these places. And sometimes we don't even know that we're not as well resourced as we possibly can be. If I just partied all weekend or all Christmas, and now I'm on a Thursday morning being like, oh, I'm tired and my partner keeps doing that dishes thing or whatever they're doing, and my patience is as thin as a piece of silk, and I'm snappier. Like, where can I take care of myself? I mean, I have like lots of A's, B's, and C's today. It sounds like you can take care of yourself. You can take some resourcing time. You can take some cuddle space or regulating space together if that's available with them.
What's the most honoring choice I can make to take care of myself because I'm dysregulated?
Yeah. Even the like recognizing that maybe you're not as well resourced is the step, right? Because sometimes we don't know that we're dysregulated. Like, I'm just really snappy about something that I'm not snappy about, usually. And I'm like, why am I, like, even just the self-awareness or the question of like, why am I being so snappy right now? Or if my partner's like, you're kind of being snappy. Like, oh, I am? What can I do to take care of me? Because obviously there's something there. And then
really, the truth is anything that disturbs your peace is something to investigate within yourself.
Truth.
And take a look at and be curious about.
Yeah. I also think of that in the same way as if I'm excessively happy or excited about something. It's like, what is that? What am I making that mean? Just in the sense of, so in the sense of dating, let's go here for a minute. In the sense of dating, I've been looking at some aspects of regulation, like a nervous system regulation when I'm dating, if I were to date. Like, oftentimes when I find myself like over the top excited about someone, I'm questioning sort of what I'm making that mean. I don't know this person. I'm making a story up about how cool they are, and which also sets them up for failure in some ways, but it also sets me up for failure as my nervous system, like it's a dysregulation, because regulation is in, this kind of place. Where can I lean into my stability and be like, oh, I don't know anything about this person, and I'm also finding myself excited in the connection without totally wiping everything else off. I don't know if anybody else has this experience where they're like, I'm so excited about you, and they want to spend all the time, and then they let their practices go, and then they let their life go, and then they, start forgetting about their friends and only focusing on the relationship. Has anyone else done that? Or is it just me? Like a zillion times.
I used to do that in the past.
Exactly. And I think this is a pretty common place.
Before marriage.
Yeah. And I think this is a pretty common place where not only are we taught socially that love is this sort of like excessive, I feel like I'm falling off of a cliff feeling that everything needs to just drop away and it's only this like nuclear unit. And so when I'm thinking about these things, it's like, oh, how do I regulate my nervous system to show up in curiosity, in unknowing, in my calm, regulated state? And I'm not saying that, to sort of not allow yourself to be excited. Like, that's not it. But it's the obsessive piece or the limerent piece of like, where you're, it's like, Dawn's my everything. but that's the dysregulation, right? And instead of being like, ooh, Dawn is amazing, and I'm excited about deepening my understanding and connection with her, and I'm so stoked on practicing my self-sourcing while I'm in connection with another, while I'm in, not losing myself or abandoning myself either.
Beautiful.
Because it can also be a place where conflict comes in, or where dysregulation comes in, or where shortened patience comes in. And this is one of the pieces in polyamory, that the NRE piece, it's called New Relationship Energy, that this NRE piece can just wipe other relationships off the board and cause so much drama. So it's leaning back to think about your own regulation, but also the regulation of others and not just one's wants or needs. Because sometimes that's what conflict can be. Is like, I want this one thing, regardless of however you feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I find when someone has a really strong positionality of making a choice, that can be dysregulating for others, because there's no willingness to work together to create reality. It's just like my way or the highway, and it's a very strong position to hold, and that can create conflict in relationships for sure.
It can create conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm so curious about these questions.
So remember that, again, these are all practices. I'm going to tell you them, and you got to practice them or you get to practice them while you're not dysregulated or you're not frustrated. Practice them on yourself, and these are really, really cool practices. Again, 5 easy questions. You're going to have to like put them into your psyche so that you can access them elsewhere, when you need those. It's a practice. You're going to have to practice them. It's not something, I mean, if you can do it immediately, I want you just text me and tell me how you're doing it, because I have yet to figure that out. And then the main thing to really focus on here is just to be compassionate with yourself and others, and not compassionate to the point where you're abandoning either of you, but really compassionate in the sense of like, what's the most loving action, and how can I accept this situation? But to really be like, hey, you're gonna mess it up, likely, and it's okay. You're a human being doing the human things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 questions before getting into conflict with your partner would sound a little like this. Could they be tired?
Cold, tired, hungry. That's always the rule of mothering.
Yeah. Could they be hungry? Could they be sad? Might someone have hurt them? Might I have hurt them? Might they need a cuddle?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that might look like for them. These are the 5 simple questions that if you can slow down in the conflict enough to ask, could they be tired, hungry, sad? Could they be hurt? Or do they need some regulation? Do they need a cuddle or some connection piece like that? That those types of pieces right there can, if you're thinking about it, right? You're like, oh gosh, I'm sitting here, my partner's being this way, and they're wanting to fight. Could they be tired? Could they be hungry? Could they be sad? Could they need a cuddle? Could they be feeling hurt?
Which is the truth, really, because underneath anger is always sadness, deep.
Yeah.
They might not know it and might not be able to access it, but there's something deeper underneath the anger. Mm-hmm.
And that right there is like, these questions are questions of compassion, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you're not making up a story like, oh yeah, but it's like, hey, did they have a heavy thing in their work this week? Did they have like some heavy review and now they're all feeling some sort of way about it? Mm-hmm. Can I show up more compassionately? Can I expand my resilience and my patience about it? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, are they hungry? If my partner has ADHD and forgets to eat all the time and it's like 4 o'clock, hey, have you eaten today? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't remember. Oh, great. Let's go out to dinner. Wow. How many issues would that just, wow, they didn't get a lot of sleep last night. And I know, because I was up all night with them. I'm feeling dysregulated about it. I'm, low resourced. They've got to be low resourced on top of whatever they were stressing about. How can I just be like, hey, do you want to cuddle? Do you want food? Is there something that I can do? Can I just listen? Mm-hmm.
I find that often also, when I add a little something to this too, when you notice someone is really off, or you feel into their feeling tone and acknowledge what emotion is there or what the feeling is, and say it. Say, I'm sensing that this is up. Is that true or accurate for you? I find that that really is a very helpful way into the reality of what's going on inside for them, and when you can name it, then they feel seen and heard because you're curious, you're paying attention, you're not pushing your agenda, you're not trying to continue whatever you needed to say in the moment, just drop it all. And it's not the time. They're obviously in a state of dysregulation. So it's time to just tune in and acknowledge, wow, I really hear your sadness. Or, wow, I really want to acknowledge that I heard you say X, Y, and Z, or I'm not feeling well, or I'm upset because ... and just be present with what they're upset because is and hear it. Because underneath the I'm upset because is an opportunity to reframe it, to rewrite it, to understand it. Because sometimes they don't even know how big it is because it's this blown up kind of mountain of emotion. And they need to kind of sort through it to get to the truth of what is and be with themselves around the opportunity inside.
Exactly. It's also to not take it personally, right? And this is like the one challenge in the world is like, don't take someone else's stuff personally, especially when you're maybe a piece in the conflict or it impacts you.
This literally happened to me over Christmas. I had some friends over and it was a great experience. We had a great experience, but there was one of these people got really, really triggered not by me, by some other conversation, some other situation having nothing to do with me in the moment. But I had gone into my garage to look for something and I was actively in a process of looking, and they came in and they wanted my consult, and they wanted for me to stop what I was doing and hear them. And I did that. I stopped everything I was doing and I just was present with them. And then I led them into the house, into a private space to actually just sit down with them and hold space and listen. And I just dropped everything I was doing for that moment. It only took, because I did that, it shortened the engagement, and immediately they were able to drop in to a deeper place and be present with what the root was, because I just guided them right down into the root of what it was and took their focus off of the other person and how that other person was causing their upset, and helped lead them back to the upset lives inside you.
Yes. I love that piece around, hey, I noticed something's off. And acknowledging, so I love that you said that, because the thing that I say is hey, something's off here. I'm not really sure what it is. The story that I'm telling myself is this. Is that true? And acknowledging that, we're energetic beings, right? And we notice, our brains are literally wired to notice patterning. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, human beings can be totally they can have their rhythm, do the same thing over and over again. And sometimes they can just be totally random. And that feels normal and natural to them. But we're oh my God, what did you do? That was different. So it's even checking your reality. That's what I like to call it. Hey, is this real? Did this change? Or am I, this person could be rah, 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 no, I'm just resent. Okay. Well, I'm feeling some sort of way about it. And if something does come up in the future, please let me know. Again, it's slowing down enough to just be able to ask more questions, to be curious, right? What Dawn said. It's asking more questions, leaning in. And oftentimes when people who are upset can be heard and seen and have someone take the time, the full presence, man, the gift of full presence can absolutely shift things like lickety split. Mm-hmm. And it's there that oftentimes we're trying to rush through the discomfort, but really being able to have the capacity, or even cultivate the capacity, to be in discomfort is going to radically shift your experience in your relationships. It's radically shifted mine.
Oh. And remember, there is no need to fix.
Yes.
There is no need to fix. Just be with.
Yes.
Be with it, even if their situation doesn't get resolved in that moment, the fact that you're being with their deeper emotion and what the upset is about, or the dysregulated emotional state is about, is really the opportunity at hand for them, because, or yourself in the moment when you're experiencing it, because the truth is it's going to be resolved. You're on your way to a breakthrough. You're in the heart of the breakthrough, possibly, and just being with is enough. And that lets the other person know, wow, you really, I feel you're loving. I feel you're caring.
Yes. That changes a lot.
It changes everything.
And there's places like, I feel like this needs to be brought up. We're talking about people who are not acting maliciously. We're talking about people who are not forcing to get their way. Like, we're not talking about some sort of like the extreme of sort of manipulations and conflict and like those types of things. This is like in relationships where you're wanting to build connection. Like, I hope that there's an understanding of the distinction between sort of like abusive behavior and people who want to like move through conflict together. Yeah.
Thank you.
5 questions. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just important because I know that when we come on here, we're sometimes we can speak in like these absolutes or these like very, like these tools and these practices are to be practiced. And if you're in an abusive situation, this might not work. It's just straight up. And it's hard to make the distinction sometimes about those things. And if you are in an abusive situation, please reach out. I'm sure Dawn and I can help you find the resources that you need to either get out of that situation or help deal with it, both emotionally and financially. And, that goes with if you're feeling suicidal or sad, like we can help you find the resources that you need to really support you. And the only reason I bring these things up is that there's distinctions about people's capacities and understandings and willingness to grow. And this is a very heavy time for some of us that we don't know what to do. And maybe we feel really alone in our situations. If you feel really alone, reach out. You don't have to do this alone. We can all do it together. This is where the best healing happens, is in community. And if you've been following us or watching us for a long time, this is where we get to go. It's like, hey, you don't have to do this alone. Now, the practice of coming back, questions to ask yourself before getting into conflict with your partner or with your friends, or with your family members. Is that okay? Because was it last week? I think it was last week that we spoke on how to get through the holidays. And again, this also comes in like, that was a great show. By the way, I loved what we were sharing there. Again, maybe you were successful at using some tools and maybe you weren't. It's okay. Be compassionate with yourself and the other people involved. How can you
learning?
How can you be compassionate about the situation and not point fingers as one? But it's also like, hey, these things can be so triggery. What is it that you need? What did you need in that moment? What did you want in that moment? What did the other person want in that moment and need in that moment? And to come back to even asking those questions in retrospective, could they have been, what were they trying to get at? So, for example, I didn't go home. I'm going to make up a story. Let's say my family and I are having conflict around politics, because this is up in the world right now, right? And I often, because people have differing beliefs about, well, everything, a lot of the time, that I kind of look under what those people are saying. So if I have this belief about one side and I'm just stuck on it, and my family is stuck on it too, on their own other side, I often am like, well, what is the common denominator that we're really looking at? Maybe it's safety, maybe it's connection, maybe it's body autonomy, maybe it's freedom, or maybe it's financial, economic safety. Who knows what it could be? But if I can boil it down to really what they're saying, so listening what's underneath that, what is the value that this other person is arguing? Like this right here has literally helped me understand so many people. Oh, they want freedom. And this is the strategy like that they see is the most effective strategy to get freedom for not only them, but for other people. Mm-hmm. And, or maybe they're worried that they keep impressing on me about ... They really care about me. And this is the strategy that they've developed to show me that they care and that for my safety. Okay. I love you. Thank you for caring about me. And thank you for worrying about me. I understand that you have a lot of fear, and this is the way that you want to keep me safe. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Like even just that will shift the way that will shift that for them, even for you, even like, oh, they're worried about me. I see that, you know? And it's also finding places of like slowing down to ask yourself about the conflict. What is it that they want? What do they need right now? Mm-hmm. They're really feisty about this one thing. What am I not hearing that they want me to hear? That's why they're getting louder or more pokey. And that's sometimes I'll just ask that. What is it that I'm not hearing that you want me to hear?
Great question. Love that.
Because oftentimes the banter that they're sharing about whatever it may be is not actually what they want me to hear. Oftentimes it's like, I want you to hear me and how much I care about you. Oh, I missed that.
I want you to hear that I'm really hurt about this specific thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
I want you to hear that I think that you're causing harm for other people. Oh, I see. Can you tell me more about that? Because you don't know, you know, maybe they're afraid for children or for people overseas, or maybe they care so much about it's a want, need, or value that they want you to see and need generally. It's not that they want to be right, and maybe they do want to be right because we're taught that being right means that you're safe. And maybe they don't have the skills to utilize these tools like you do. Again, it's finding compassion for yourself, doing no harm, but taking no baloney. Mm-hmm.
I also want to bring in the two things that really help just bring connection, period, is if you can remember to always see through the eyes of love, see the love, see the loving essence in another, and also hear with the compassion of your heart, hear with the ear of your heart. And if you attune in that way and remember that they are you in a sense, we're sharing in loving essence, there is no separation. You can let go of, you know, identifying with the ego and like their personality and kind of attune deeper to them. That way you can find the compassion and the connection, and you're relishing in that vibrational state together, and that brings you closer versus just identifying with, you know, their thoughts, behaviors, feelings, actions, because we're greater than that. Our energy, our presence, our God manifested miraculous presence in the now is greater than the ego.
Truth. It also takes a lot of slowing down to even be there. Mm-hmm. And I know that, again, I'm going to just kind of drill this in because it's, again, these are practices. You've got to practice them. You've got to practice them when you're not triggered. You've got to practice them when you are triggered. You've got to practice them when you're on yourself and with other people, because that's how we change the habituated brain.
Mhm.
One of the things that I think we talked about this a lot years ago is that one of the things that really frustrated me is that just becoming aware of what I needed to make change didn't change the thing. That I actually am in habit of either saying it or thinking of it, or my physical habits, that you have to actually kind of hack those. You have to consistently make change. And so for some of you who are neurodiverse, that right there can be really hard to create a new habit. For me, who has ADHD, like sometimes habits, I'll be like on a habit, a new habit, and then all of a sudden I'll just wake up one day and be like, oh my God, I have not done that for 4 days. And be like, what happened? Like, why did it just like flee out of my brain? I was like, what happened? It was like a butterfly, just like, doot, 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 doot. And so in that place, it's I get to practice this again. I just get to come back. And then there's no shame we don't need to get into the shame or guilt thing, because that is just going to keep it further away from potential new habit. It's like, oh, pick it up again. It's like your favorite toy, right? Or some hobby. It's like, oh, whenever I'm inspired to do this. Remember the show that we did that was Inspired Living is Inspired Loving?
Mm-hmm.
I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying, and that's kind of a privileged thing to say. It's like, oh, we get to live inspired lives, but also finding the inspiration in the day or in the moment, and being grateful for the little things. Like growing up pretty poor, you had to find the juice in the day. Like, oh, what can I be grateful for?
Mm-hmm.
What little bit inspired me today? And you can also retrain your brain to seek inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Not as in like grasping for novelty and nostalgia, but really seeking in the moments of inspiration, like, oh my God, I get to work with Dawn today. Even though I've worked with her a zillion Thursdays in a row, I'm like, oh, I get to see my friend. Or, wow, this coffee today is inspirational.
Oh my God, hot water. Yes. Right? Like
the shower is so inspiring.
Shower, every day I never take a freaking hot shower for granted, ever. I'm so beyond grateful to have hot water. Like the simple things, right? It's just like seeking pleasure in the simplest things, like, oh, my yummy cup of tea, and the blessing of like each connection you have in your life. I mean, I've been living by this golden rule my whole life, and I'm so grateful that my mother taught me this, but it was always a conversation in our household growing up, is to count our blessings. And I feel that I live my life that way. Even though, yes, I still have hard things I'm dealing with. Like, I'm human. We're humaning together, making it through, we're traversing the universe 2022 into 2023. Here we go. Here we grow. And it's the golden rule. Live by counting your blessings. There's so many spiritual blessings unfolding in each person's life, even if you're going through the dark night of the soul or a really challenging curriculum. Maybe Pluto's been traversing your astrological terrain for the last 12 years. Like me, I'm a Capricorn. It's been heavy and challenging, and it's been deeply transformational. And it's interesting, like, instead of shaming, wronging, and pushing against and resisting the difficult in your life, what if you started thanking God for it? What if you said, you know what, this is so challenging. Thank you. Thank you for the learning here. Thank you for the opportunity in this. And thank you for giving me this spiritual knowing and insight to navigate these waters. Even though I don't know what it is yet, even though I'm not through it yet, even though this isn't complete yet, this pattern or this difficulty or this problem or this issue, thank you, Spirit, for the learning here. That has changed my life.
And that's a very simple practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Practiced it.
It's a day by day. Like, it helps me meet conflict, problems, issues, stuck energy, unresolved things with more compassion towards myself and what's going on, and the knowing that the solution is coming because I'm present with it and I'm not pushing against it to like ignore it, you know, or do everything to kind of like, ugh, it's too difficult. I won't, you know, and like the self-defeating conversation that can go along with this is never going to change. I'm never going to figure it out. Like all that stuff that can go along with when you're in a conflict or a difficult circumstance, right? It's just the knowing of like, Spirit's got this. This is for me. This is for me. How miraculous that is. That whole way, it opens the doorway to possibility, to insight, to miracles, to the knowing of, oh, I just got it. I got the download around what this really is for me. And now I can take the steps.
And this, like what I love about, you can be grateful and still hate it.
You can absolutely still hate it and have your emotions around it and give yourself space to like rage, get angry, bite the pillow, freeform, write it out, you know, whatever it is. Yeah. Literally, sometimes I scribble hard on the paper just to get the emotional frustration out. Because you don't even need to reread it, you can burn it.
Well, so that's, all of this is not to say to be like, oh, like just put a little gratitude on it and like that. No, it's not that. It's, you know, how many times have you had a breakup and it felt like for months you were just like, what in the F is going on here? And how am I, like, it's about me, it's about them. You know, it was just traumatic. And then afterward, you're like, oh, I can see why I needed to go through that because I'm such a better person, or I raised my standards, or I now am more clear about what I want, more clear about what I need, more clear about who I am, and how much self-awareness it brought. Oftentimes, what we don't see is how the conflict, whether that's within us or externalized in some way, how that's an opportunity to deepen our love in the moment, our love for themselves now, and each other. It's not to say like bypass it, like don't do that. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has tried to just bypass it all with the spiritual stuff or with the other stuff, you know, like chemistry or people or whatever. Like, has anyone else ever done that? Me? Now I've done that. You know, and so that's the thing, is like, we get to choose that. It's like, okay, I'm going to choose to be in my grief. It's going to wash over me. It's going to come up at the most inopportune times. It's going to come up. I'm going to feel icky about it. It's going to be deeply uncomfortable. Can I hold that place? Can I love that place? Can I be in that place without running away from it? And find some aspect of gratitude. Again, it's not a like a button or a Band-Aid to like push or to put over it. It's really to be like, oh God, I'm going to feel this. I'm going to dance it out. I'm going to cry, scream, write, scribble, whatever it is. And I'm going to see that there's, even if it's not about the situation, finding gratitude within the day. Within, like, wow, I'm really grateful that here's a real one. I'm really grateful that I'm choosing to protect my peace right now. Not P-I-E-C-E. I hope I spelled that right. Or, yeah, but P-E-A-C-E. And protecting my peace, which means that I'm also protecting other people's peace. I'm really grateful that's what my practice is right now, because it's changing how I show up in the world. It's changing who I show up with in the world. It's changing how often I go out, which is rarely, and how much more regulated. I'm really grateful, even though there's a lot of things in my life that I'm uncomfortable with and still working on making friends with, right? Again, and then also asking myself these questions. Could I be tired? Am I hungry? Am I a little sad? Am I feeling hurt about something? Do I need a cuddle? Like those 5 questions, I was like, huh, these are really great questions. Am I hungry? I'm probably hungry. I'm kind of being a B word. Or am I sad? I'm a little scared right now. Can I tell someone about that? That can hold my fear? Is there someone that I can ask for a cuddle that might help me feel like safe in my body as well? Because maybe there's some things that aren't safe in my body. Again, these 5 simple questions you can ask yourself. You can practice them on you. And then you can also practice like, oh, is Dawn feeling sad, hungry, tired? Does she need a cuddle? Did someone hurt her?
I need a cuddle. I'm joking.
Exactly. You know, and I think that you all who have ever been following this show for some time, or follow Love Coach Academy, or follow any of these other like amazing coaches all over, or even spiritual gurus, or even Dawn or I, that it often comes back to compassion. It often comes back to empathy and like remembering that maybe my experience isn't the only experience.
Mm-hmm.
That there's 8 billion realities, give or minus a billion or many, on this planet. That this right here, if I can just recognize that my lived experience is mine, to be compassionate with what that experience is, because it's a very unique experience than anybody else's in the world, and there's no way that I can fit into the social norm of anything, and to be compassionate that's just going to happen. And to also be like, wow, Dawn is living her whole wild, beautiful life, and she's got a very different reality, like the way she perceives it. And I can also figure out ways to negotiate reality with her and meet in the middle. Or maybe it's, someone I'm having conflict with, or someone that, I feel really connected to or not connected to, is like, how can I extend my perception enough to recognize that that person is having a whole other experience, and we're really doing our best to find connection in like 2 different puzzle pieces trying to match together. Again, it's about compassion. And these 5 questions are really just to they're easy questions to get back into that as quickly as possible. It takes slowing down. It takes being grateful. It takes forgiveness and gentleness and okay with stumbling through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
End rant.
I also just want to seed the conversation with, right now is such a precious, sacred time. We're closing out 2022 and moving into 2023. And I just want to, just remember, send light across the earth, send light to every being, every spiritual being that's on this planet, that, we are all here for a purpose and a reason, doing our inner work. And yes, the planet is changing. Yes, there's big occurrences happening. Yes, there's big shifts taking place on the planet right now. And it's an opportunity to really radiate your love bigger than ever. And, give yourself permission to do that. And for the ones you love and the people you don't know, this is a sacred time to just really plant those seeds of light and truth for you. And really, I invite you into a conversation of just sitting with yourself and writing your what's to come for you in this next time. What do you want out of your life? And what do you want that's like the greater momentum? Like choose to lean into, what if I could create an upward spiritual draft in my life? What would that look like? And plan it out. Like, if I could just live the best life possible in relationships, in, your career, and all the areas of your life, this is the time to plant those seeds and just really attune to spirit and ask spirit to give you the guidance around those things, and create that spiritual upward movement within your writing or in your visioning. Give it your all. Go for it. Because that's a lot of times this is like the time to be doing that with the new year.
I love that.
Mhm.
Thank you all so much for showing up this week. I know that this weird week between Christmas and New Year's is always some sort of portal, rabbit hole, pause button. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself and making sweet, self-honoring choices that honor you and all those people in your life that you love and don't. And we will be back in the new year with a bunch of really amazing new guests. And we're really excited about who's coming up and coming in. More of us, you'll hear more of our teachings as well as other people's, and we love you.
We do. We love you and appreciate you. And thank you for tuning in so often with us and going to all our other platforms as well. We're so thankful. So thankful for your presence and so thankful for the wide umbrella of self-love and the discovery of the wisdom and the learning that takes place with the greater capacity to love ourselves, love the loved ones in our lives. It makes our lives better when we choose loving.
Mm-hmm. So again, if you'd like to find us anywhere, you're welcome to find us on YouTube or Spotify or any of the other platforms. Here's the Spotify link if you want it, and I'll send in the YouTube link. And I want to say a special thank you to Love Coach Academy, Scott Thomas, Sign Network, Global Peace Tribe, and as always, our amazing virtual assistants who make all of this possible right now so that Dawn and I can see them as well. So have a lovely holiday, and we'll see you next week.
Happy New Year to everyone.